Hey everyone, Damien the Kung Fit Coach here. Today we're going to be talking about Dingzibu, commonly known as Dingbu, which translates as nail stance, but it's also quite often known as T stance as well. This is because our feet make a T shape, and it's called nail stance because this foot is driving into the ground a bit like a nail. It's a pretty straightforward stance to do. There's not a huge amount to explain, but it is quite difficult to actually physically perform, and obviously we want to talk about the application and the best ways for you to train it. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Let's get into it. So as I said, Dingbu is pretty straightforward to do. Let's do it on our right leg first. So right leg is going to be flat on the floor, left leg is going to come in, and we're just going to have the ball of our foot, maybe even the toes, just in the middle of the right foot. Okay, so this leg is bent, this one's straight to begin with, and then from here I'm just going to sink down, so both legs are going to bend. As I sink, I want to try and keep my body relatively upright, my back straight. So I'm not going to curl my back over, I'm not going to bend too much at the hips. I'm just going to stay nice and straight and sink down. Now this kind of height is fine, no problem with that. Obviously, if you can go lower, you can. Go low, 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 low. And really, our ultimate position is going to be here with this thigh about parallel to the ground. And you'll notice that as you really sink down, you will lean forward slightly, so you'll hinge at the hips. That's necessary. You can't stay completely upright as you go down. You'll fall over backwards. But you don't want to be curling over. So as I drop, my back stays straight, and I just hinge slightly at the hips as I get lower, but I don't curl over. And this kind of bottom position is where we want to be. As I said, getting this thigh close to parallel to the floor. If we sink too far down, we're basically just sitting down. So we want to be a little bit higher. That's about as low as you want to get. Front on, just looks like this. Again, ball of this foot in between the kind of front and the back of that. Right for standing foot, and we sink down. Now, let's talk weight distribution. Pretty much all of our weight is on this standing leg. The other leg is just for balance. However, as you get lower, that will adjust slightly. So if I'm up here quite high with my Dingbu, this foot is empty. I can lift it up, I can move it around, it's not taking any of my weight. That's a little bit like our Shubu, where we sink backwards and this front leg can do whatever it wants. As we get lower and lower though, that becomes harder to maintain. So as you get really, really low, you'll take a little bit of your weight on this left leg. You can still lift it up if you need to and move it, but you're not going to hold all of your weight on that leg for a long time. So as I said, you can start quite high. As you get better at this, as you get stronger, you can get lower and lower and lower. But really, it's not just leg strength, but also that lower back strength, so we can try and be relatively upright and we're not hunching right over like this. We really don't want to be in this position. So that's all there is to it, really. That's Dingbu. Relatively straightforward, not too much more to explain, but it's the training and obviously the application that's important to understand. Okay, so what about the application of Dingbu then? Like most of our stances, it's just a really good training tool. Builds up the strength of the legs, builds up the strength of the lower back, the glutes as well, but it also has combat and self-defense applications as well. Most basic one, if we're in a side-on stance, it's a way of us moving backwards and also shrinking down and therefore gaining distance from our opponent. If they throw an attack, you move backwards, it's less likely to hit you. So you could see it as the side-on version of a Shubu. But you can also use it front-on, and that's where it becomes a little bit more useful. So if your opponent throws an attack, let's say a straight attack to begin with, rather than just moving backwards, you're moving to the side, so you're taking yourself off the line of the attack. Now you can just do this with a slip or with a lean, but this is quite intense on the lower back, on the core. It takes quite a lot of strength to be able to do this repeatedly, and then also to come back up quickly. And it's quite easy to strain yourself if you're not used to doing it. By bringing this leg with you, you're not just leaning your body weight over to one side, you're shifting your entire body weight. It makes it much easier to do. It also allows you to make bigger motions, which can be useful for things like hooks, which aren't just coming on that straight line, but they're actually curving around. And that shrinking down element as well gets you even further away from the attack. So it's taking you offline and taking you away from it. That's if you're just using it purely defensively. But a really important thing about Dingbu is that it encapsulates the Shaolin principle of shrink like a cat, expand like a tiger. So your attack comes in, you're moving offline and you're shrinking down. You're trying to make yourself as small as possible so you don't get hit. But then you expand like a tiger, so you can explode out and drive your attack into your opponent. By coming down here, these legs are primed to push up from this position quite explosively. You can get a lot of power out of this, and you can use that power to drive into your punch, into a knee, kick, elbow, whatever it might be. So it's very much a counter-attack move. The opponent's attack comes in, you move offline, that gives you the defensive element. But then you've also created an angle. You know, they are expecting you to be in front of them. You've created an angle that you can now exploit. So you create a better opportunity to attack, and you can do so explosively. So you move out of the way, explode back with an attack, whatever an attack that might be. So it's a really useful counter-attacking defensive motion, which is slightly different from how you apply Shubu. Shubu is all about distance, really. You're moving forward and you're moving backwards. Dingbu is mainly about angles, but there's a little bit of distance in there. Another big application of Shubu is the fact that dropping your weight down. So a bit like with Pubu, the dropping of the weight can be a useful way to use it. Same with Dingbu. So that sudden drop we can get can be really powerful. You see it in Shaolin, for example. You've got this movement. Essentially, one of the applications here is you're trapping something, maybe an arm, with this arm, and then this one is rolling over the top and chopping down as you sink your weight. So this could be a joint manipulation, so you grab someone's arm, you roll this over it, and then essentially do a little mini arm bar, you press down and you drag them down with you. Or you can do it with a lot more force, get it in the right place, and you've potentially got a break. So we've got two uses then. We've got the counter-attacking, moving offline, creating an angle, and we've got the sudden dropping of the weight to generate power, whether that's to manipulate a joint or to try and directly injure someone. Last but most definitely not least, we need to look at how we train this. Because as I said, it's a straightforward stance, but actually being able to do it well is difficult. It's physically demanding, it takes a lot of leg strength, and as I said, a fair amount of lower back strength, which a lot of people don't have because we all sit down too much. So the first way we're going to train this is similar to how we've done some previous stances, using a wall. So we're going to start standing right up against it, and we're going to step forward just a little bit away from the wall, and then from here we're going to do our stance. So foot's going to come up, and I'm going to sink down. Now, I know I'm too far away from the wall currently because I can't feel the wall at all. My butt's nowhere near it. So I need to shuffle back, try again, sink down, and I'm just brushing the wall with my bum. I'm not putting any weight against the wall, but I can just about feel it. From here, I should be able to lean my head back and just touch the wall with the back of my head. If I'm touching with the top of the head, I'm too far away, and if I can't really move it, well, I'm leaning against the wall at this point. More likely, you're going to be too far away, and that, if your bum is just brushing the wall and you're not feeling the wall, or you're feeling with the top of your head, that means you're a little bit too far forward with your torso. So just lift it up a little bit, try and be a little bit straighter, even if you have to come a bit higher, and get to that point where you're just touching the wall with the back of your head, and then that's where you want to be. And then you want to try and get lower and lower and lower, still being able to touch the wall. Now I don't expect you to start high and work your way down all in one session. Start high, practice that a little bit, make sure you're in the good position, and then over time get lower and lower as you practice. The next method, we need a chair. So again, this is similar to what we did with Shubu. We're trying to work that bottom range of motion that's really difficult to do if you're just trying to do it unassisted, just coming from up at the top and drop all the way down. It gets very hard to get down there. But by starting low down with the chair and then coming up from here, we can work that difficult range of motion and therefore make it easier for us to get down into the lower positions from standing. So we're going to sit towards the edge of the chair. We're going to get our feet ready in our Dingbu position. So 1 foot flat, 1 foot up on the ball of the foot. And then from here, we want to make sure we don't use our hands, so don't push off, don't swing with the arms. Just keep them neutral so you can hold them out for a bit of balance. You can put them on your head, wherever you want them. And then you're just going to do a little bit of a lean forward. That little bit of a lean is just going to give you a small amount of momentum, just to help you get up off the chair. If you just try and use your legs from here, and I'm leaning, look. If I try and just use my legs, it's not going to happen. You've got to have that little bit of a lean, just a small lean, just to build the momentum, just to get you off the chair. Use that, get up, and then hold. So I'm holding in this low position. A couple of seconds, and then drop back down. And up, and drop back down. As I say, only a small amount of momentum. I'm not swinging my body and not swinging my arms. It's just getting me up off the chair, and then I'm holding in that low position that would otherwise be very difficult to do. And then obviously we do it on the other side as well. Same idea, little bit of momentum, up, hold, and down. And to begin with, it might literally be like that. You're just able to get up and come back down. But gradually try and increase the length of time that you're holding. Still only go up to a few seconds, no more than 5 seconds really. And then increase the number of reps. So maybe start with just 5, 10, something like that. Try and work your way up to bigger numbers, 50 even. And then you know that you're going to get nice, strong, lower position in that stance. Once you're happy with those two exercises, obviously you can just hold the position. So you just start up high, work your way down, hold down here for a length of time, and then come back up. Again, trying to gradually increase the depth and the time that you're holding for. So that's the basics of building the strength to use this stance. Then practicing the actual application requires a bit of work too, because we're not just holding this, remember, we are moving around in it. So we need to work on that movement. First thing to do is just go side to side. So start just standing, and you're going to step 1 foot out, the other foot then drags in to your Dingbu position. But as you do that drag, you also want to sink. And then you come up again. And then you step, drag, and sink. Step, drag, and sink. So just alternating each foot, coming up in between. This is really working the legs, and it's working the balance as you shift your weight from side to side. Get comfortable with that, and then you can start coming up less. So you can just come from Dingbu, step to the Dingbu on the other side. This works your body even more. You can lean a little bit with it, and you can even start incorporating the arms. So I talked about that movement that we have in Shaolin. We can do it here. It also appears in Tongbei as well. We have more of a chopping motion than the rolling over. So we can chop. So not only are we moving away from our opponent, but we're blocking as well. So that's practicing our side to side motion. And then when you get really, really comfortable with it, when all of that is easy, you can hold the stance low, you can go side to side, you can start making it more explosive. So explosively coming from side to side, and then working on the forward and backwards. So maybe you retreat, then you jump forwards and retreat, and jump forwards or jump sideways. Really work on that ability to change angles and get that explosive, expanding like a tiger. Try and get that mentality. If you're shrinking up and then getting as big as you can, try to use as much energy as you can. And that is when you know that you're ready to start using it. So something comes in, you'll be able to move offline and really explosively counterattack. Then it's time to practice using it, obviously, in a live situation. So doing a bit of sparring, someone throws a punch, really go for a nice big counter with a big avoidance with your Dingbu, rather than just doing a casual boxing slip. Put some of that kung fu spice in and really get out of the way and try and get some of those angles. So that, in a nutshell, very big nutshell, is how we're going to train our Dingbu. Gradually getting lower and lower, holding for longer and longer, and then getting more and more explosive and closer to the true application of it. So hopefully you found this really useful. If you have, make sure you give that like button, good hard Mabu punch. Hit subscribe to stay up to date on all of my future content, and let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see next. Is there any move that's a bit tricky for you want some guidance on how to train it, or maybe something that you're not sure on the application of? Let me know, and I shall do my best to film something for you. Right, I shall catch you later, guys. Have a good one.